Hello, princesses, and welcome back to Not Fit for Print Beauty with me, Rebecca. Today we are going to talk about something interesting. Some might not say interesting, but I actually do, from Tarte. This is the Tarte Tartelette Full Bloom Amazonian Clay palette. It is based off of its little sister, or actually I should say big sister, the best-selling In Bloom 12 shade Tarte palette. Raise your hand at home if you had that. It did very, very well for Tarte in just kind of basic neutral shades. And so, hey, when something does well, why not build on it? So we have this now, which is 28 shades and $52. So first, let's start by looking at this big guy in the pan. As I said, we have 28 shades of rosy, plums, and bronze, and neutrals, and mattes, and shimmers, metallics, and glitters. These shades promise to stay on all day because they are made with this somewhat mysterious Tarte Amazonian clay, just like their In Bloom palette was, and just like their Amazonian clay foundation. Now, I was very disappointed in the foundation because when it was re-released, they added a fragrance to it that I find most annoying. I still love the foundation, but the fragrance for the second edition was a little bit too much for me. There is a gentle vanilla fragrance that emanates from this palette but quickly dissipates when on the eyes, but I did want to warn you of that. These are basically a lot of neutrals, very reminiscent. I'm going to go get it now because I forgot to bring it over. Don't go. During the demo, I was saying that it very much reminded me of, I filmed the demo before this, obviously. It reminds me of the Born This Way, the Natural Nudes Too Faced palette, and I'll tell you why. It's these kind of palettes that, I know the shades aren't really the same, but these kind of palettes that take neutrals and just go all the way with them. From the kind of gentlest neutral all the way to the deepest neutral within that. So it kind of reminded me of a different version of that. These are all really just kind of gentle, rosy shades that could really be worn by anyone with any skin tone. It just gets light to dark. And they are very subtle. They are very powdery, but not in a bad way. More just like easy to work with, spreading gently powder. We're gonna, let's go to the swatches. There's 28 shades, as I said, $52, and I'm gonna do the swatches for you in two different lightings. Here they are first in studio lighting, so that you can see them on my arm in 2 rows. So at top, we have the first 2 rows, that's 14 shades, and then beneath it, the bottom 2 rows, 14 more shades, trying to squeeze them on there and hold still so that you could still kind of get a good look at them. That's kind of important. I was also told, I love the feedback, and I was told to hold still a little bit more when showing these, because that helps you guys get screenshots and stuff when you're using it for reference before your purchase. So I'm happy to do that, and I'm going to incorporate that more as we step outside into the warm California sunshine. I try to hold still just a little bit more if I can in these shots. Let's take a look at these in natural lighting. Here we go. Same position on my arm as they were at the beginning. Top row is the first 2 rows, and bottom row is the second 2 rows. And there they are in all of their glory. Quite beautiful. Now, are these exciting? Are people going to scream and line up and get super excited? Absolutely not. But you know, sometimes it's like the little black dress, right? We all want to have that little black dress or the perfect pair of black or neutral pumps. This is kind of like it. So before you go, I'm so bored, Rebecca, I've fallen asleep, we need to give it a chance. But there's something else about this palette that's interestingly on trend. See, I can't help it. I think like a magazine editor. That's my day job. This is another kind of limited edition, our biggest palette yet. So I was reading about this. It is limited edition, and they say that this is inspired, of course, by In Bloom, the 12 shade, but they talk about the fact that this is the biggest tartelette palette ever. And when I wrote that down, I thought, wait a minute, I've heard that before. And I realized where I've heard it before. NARS just came out with their holiday palette, right? I like to call it NARS in Bondage. And NARS says what? It's their biggest NARS palette ever. Melt just came out with their Amor y Mariposas, and it is what? Their biggest palette yet. And for the second time, Pat McGrath came out with her Mega palette, which are, for the second time around, her biggest palettes yet. So I realize also that seems to be, not all of them are limited edition like the Tarte one, but I just kind of started giggling to myself. Think of more if you can, but just those came to mind off the top of my head. Wow, everybody is doing their biggest palette yet, which is kind of interesting. Seems to be a little bit of a trend. Not making a big palette, but calling it our biggest palette ever. I am noticing a little bit of a trend. Let me know down below in comments if you've noticed that too. Please remember, I do think this has a place in the Makeup Lovers collection, and I'm going to show you a few different ways to work with it to achieve the look that we have here. Which, is it basic? Yes. Is it boring? Oh, you might think so. I don't know. Let's talk about that in comments. Stay right there, and I'm going to come back with nothing on my eyes and just kind of show you me playing around with this palette. Stay there. Okay, so this is a really big palette, so we kind of have our work cut out for us. But what I would actually like to do, strangely, is almost two looks on top of each other. I want to show you how to use these kind of lighter shades, and then trust me, I can just put something a little bit darker right over the top because the lighter shades are very light. The nice thing about this, of course, is that it can get in so many different skin tones, and that is really nice. And these lighter shades could even be used if you have deeper skin tones, and vice versa. It just depends how you use them. These all do have names, which are not really showing to me in the glare, so I'll make sure to put them on screen. I'm going to start with this shade right here. They are a little powdery, but that's fine. It's nothing bad, and it's not creating any sort of kick up in the air, but you do notice some powder accumulating in the pan, and I am only telling you that in case that is a pet peeve. And that sweet kind of vanilla smell is emanating from the pans, but I do not smell it on my face, if that makes sense. So it is not, it is neither annoying or pervasive, I should say. Okay, so that is just a very, very light look, and of course this is all dependent, obviously, upon skin tone. And I'm using that same Refer 16 and just going a tad bit darker with this third over from the right in the second row. And I'm just going to put that here. So the nice thing about this, and these are actually shades, I am a light medium, and these are actually shades that are a little bit light for me, almost like you would set your eyes with these in a way. So you can actually take this look right here. I'm going to go in with this shade right here, the first and the second row, and I'm just kind of now putting that over. Now, if you had a very, very light skin tone, you would have a kind of a really pretty, quick eye look. I'm even getting some into the crease. Now, would this work with a deeper skin tone? Sure, especially for, as we famously like to call it, the no makeup look. And this, you guys, with eyeliner and with some mascara, there is nothing wrong with this. It just looks fresh and pretty. But let's go in and do something just a little more interesting. Okay, so that will make us go into these colors down here. I have my ever popular Refer number 1 on the second shade in the third row. And now I'm going to deepen. These are the shades that are going to work a little better for me being a light medium, and would be, you know, just kind of, this reminds me of, do you know what this reminds me of, you guys? The Too Faced Born This Way palette. Do you guys know the Too Faced Born This Way palette? I'll bring that out. I haven't filmed my intro yet, so if I remember, I'll bring that out in the intro and mention it. I don't know why I'm so soft-spoken right now. I'm like doing my Bob Ross impression or something, aren't I? Okay, keeping with that Refer number 1, I'm going to go even deeper into this kind of rosy shade here in the final row. And this is going to be a very subtle look, even though, as you see, I'm going into the deepest, darkest row. This is a very pretty, very subtle look. If you are somebody who is trepidatious about big palettes and trepidatious about, you know, kind of going in with bold colors, this would be a great kind of learning palette. No, I don't mean that it's for grade school kids. I really don't. I'm going to go in here with this shade right here. I'm just sticking with the same brush. These shades are not, that one kicked up just a little bit, but these shades are not, nothing is going to kind of stick and be difficult to work with. They are extremely powdery in a good way. Powdery has come to have a bad connotation. I do not mean that. They are just very, you know, this is a very traditional formula powder eyeshadow, the Amazonian Clay powder eyeshadow, and you just kind of can't make a mistake with these. This is a great palette if you kind of go, oh, I get a Pat McGrath and it worries me a little bit. I get a Natasha Denona and they're really dark and bright. This is a very, very pretty palette. You just kind of can't make a mistake. I could close my eyes and point and still come up with a very pretty, very everyday look. This is kind of the most basic of basic eyeshadow palettes, which sounds like an insult, and in reality it's not at all. Sometimes this is a staple in the collection. Let me put a little bit of mascara on so we can kind of see what a finished look would look like. Let me first actually just take a little bit of this pink shade right here, the second over in the second row, and just give a little bit of glistening to the eye. I mean, really, this is about as basic as you could be. So I don't want to call it beginner, because in the hands of a makeup artist, this would be quite lovely. But what I do mean is it's just absolutely mistake proof, and sometimes that's nice. Let me get some mascara on and we'll discuss. Okay, I'm back. I finished off with a little bit of a darker eyeliner just to give a little bit more drama. Okay, I've been playing with all these really dramatic palettes lately. Really wasn't used to this. Now, before you give a big yawn and say I am so bored, please know that I really feel there is a place for this palette. There's a few things for this palette. Number one, a very basic everyday look. It can be eveninged up. There are shimmers and metallics in there. Also for, when I say beginners, it makes it sound like a Barbie play palette. I don't mean that, but for people who are kind of easing into working with different shades. It's many shades of the same progressively. And I think there's a place for this. I could see myself on a day when I just want to swipe on some makeup and just look presentable and nice. I think this could actually be a girl or guy's best friend. I really think there is a place for this palette. I have been doing other work for about 3 hours and it hasn't budged. I did retouch up my lip gloss that I'm wearing, but nothing else with the makeup. And I just really feel that there's a place for this. I think it is a really reliable palette. Exciting, admittedly, it's not. But let me know your thoughts. How do you feel? Did you have the other Tarte palette that this is, the In Bloom, the 12 shade one that this is based off of? And what is your thinking? Because boy, I would really love to know. So please give me your comments below. Be nice to poor Tarte. It is a bit basic, but sometimes basic is good. So let me know your thoughts. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I sure hope that you did. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel so I can see you in the next video. Will be maybe a little bit less basic. Bye-bye.